Little Nicky follows the story of Nicky, the sweet and gentle son of the ruler of hell. When his father steps down, chaos erupts as Nicky's wicked brothers vie for power. To restore order and maintain the balance of good and evil, Nicky sets off on a humorous adventure, learning valuable lessons along the way. The movie starts with a man sitting on a tree, pretending to have dinner. He sips wine and watches a woman from her bedroom window. Suddenly, her son interrupts. The man calls the house, asking the son to leave. The woman sees him and the boy shoots him with a slingshot. He falls from the tree and finds himself in a cloudy pool. Then, he passes through a wall and ends up in hell. Nicky is enjoying rock music when his demon assistant, Jimmy, arrives. Jimmy tells Nicky to go to the throne room as ordered by his father. Nicky has two brothers, Adrian, who is very smart, and Cassius, who is strong but not very bright. Since Nicky was born, his brothers have been mean to him and controlled his mind for fun. Nicky has a speech problem caused by Cassius. He struck Nicky in the face with a shovel, causing his jaw to deform. When Cassius hurt Nicky again using his mind control ability, their father walked in and punished him. Later, they all gathered for a meeting to determine who would succeed their father as ruler of their realm. The father found it challenging to choose among his three sons. He believed they needed more time to understand the balance between good and evil. Consequently, he decided to retain his position on the throne. Displeased with this decision, Adrian and Cassius opted not to serve in their realm for the next 10,000 years. The two brothers devised their wicked scheme, returning to Earth and establishing their own version of hell. They dash backward towards the Wall of Souls. As they leap over it, the wall freezes, sealing off the soul entrance to hell. Upon learning this dire news, Nicky is informed by his father that his brother's actions could result in his demise. If the Wall of Souls remains blocked, no more evil souls can enter, leading to the decay of his father's body. To thwart their plan, Nick is dispatched to Earth. His mission is to locate his brothers and imprison them in a silver flask. Nicky faces a race against time to rescue his father. Back on Earth, Nicky struggles to survive, experiencing death and returning to hell multiple times. Upon his return, he encounters a talking bulldog named Mr. Beefy, who happens to be his father's closest companion. Nicky exhibits apprehension towards the unfamiliarities of the earthly realm and promptly embarks on a quest to locate his siblings. Advised by Beefy, he comprehends the challenges of identifying them, considering their ability to inhabit different personas. Initially, Beefy imparts practical advice on attire and sustenance to Nicky, guiding him towards adaptation. Subsequently, Nicky cohabits with Todd, an aspiring actor, in an apartment. With the urgency of his father's predicament in mind, Nicky brandishes the flask, attempting to compel passers-by to ingest its contents in a bid to unveil his brother's presence. Despite his efforts, Nicky encounters resistance at every turn. Concurrently, Adrian and Cassius infiltrate influential spheres by commandeering religious and political figures, advancing their clandestine agenda. Nicky really wanted to find his brothers, but it's been tough and tiring. While he's sleeping, an old man takes his flask. When Nicky wakes up, he's scared because his flask is missing. Thankfully, he finds it at the man's fair. When he asks for it back, the man scares him. But then Nicky meets Valerie, a design student, who helps him get his flask back. Nicky starts liking Valerie a lot ever since. While the couple walks together, Adrian sees Nicky across the street. Nicky gets controlled again, scaring Valerie away. Adrian tricks Nicky into causing a car accident, sending him back to hell. At home, Nicky sees his brothers possessing important people on TV. Beefy teaches Nicky to unleash his own evil and prepares him to fight his brothers. While they're practicing, Todd comes in and asks to watch a basketball game on TV. That's when Nicky sees Cassius on TV, controlling the referee. Nicky rushes to the basketball court to catch Cassius. Using his evil powers, Nicky tries to outplay Cassius on the court. He tricks Cassius into drinking from the flask, trapping him inside. Impressed by Nicky's skills, fans John and Peter become his loyal supporters. After the game, Nicky brings them to his apartment, where they bond with Todd and Beefy. They all have a great time together and encourage Nicky to apologize to Valerie. That night, Nicky tries to reconcile with Valerie, but initially fails. He gets pepper sprayed and falls off the building, but uses his powers to save himself and return to Valerie. Nicky then explains his situation to her, and she accepts him. They soar through the night sky, admiring the city below. The next day, Adrian takes over the chief of police and falsely accuses Nicky of being a serial killer. Unaware of this, Nicky continues his day happily. However, people start chasing him for the reward. Frightened and confused, Nicky transforms into spiders to escape the crowd. When he returns home, he discovers Adrian's wicked scheme. He requests his friends to end his life so he can go back to hell and speak with his father. In hell, Nicky sees his father in a terrible state. His father has lost his hearing and his ears are missing. The demon assistant becomes anxious because they only have a few hours left before the midnight deadline to capture Adrian and Cassius. Nicky promises his father that he'll do everything he can to save him. Back on Earth, Nicky and his friends come up with a plan to catch Adrian. John and Peter pretend to meet with the chief of police and inform him of Nicky's whereabouts. They take the chief to the subway station, where Todd and Beefy are waiting to be arrested as part of the plan. While they wait for Nicky, the chief reveals himself to be Adrian. Valerie disguises herself as a drunk woman and gives a flask to John and Peter, hoping to trap Adrian. Adrian catches on to the trick when he notices Peter's unusual behavior. It's revealed that John was actually possessed by Nicky. Adrian decides not to let Cassius out of the flask, stating that hell only needs one ruler. Meanwhile, Beefy manages to escape from the police and returns to help Nicky. Back at the subway, Adrian captures Valerie and threatens Nicky to drink from the flask. Just as Nicky is about to do so, Beefy arrives and shoots an arrow at Adrian. Adrian grabs Valerie and jumps onto the tracks as a train approaches. Nicky rushes to save Valerie by throwing her off the tracks. Adrian and Nicky are hit by the train and killed. Shortly after, Adrian appears before his father and asks where Nicky is because he came alone. He then overthrows his father and takes his place as the new ruler. He comes to Earth and tells everyone that he'll kill them in 15 minutes. Adrian wants to turn Earth into hell. Meanwhile, Nicky finds himself in heaven. He sees his mom, Holly. She says he can only beat Adrian with his inner light, a power he got from her. She gives him a strange ball and tells him to be brave and do what's right. Back on Earth, the demons find Nicky and try to hurt him. Nicky gives them presents, so they start to respect him and join him to stop Adrian. Nicky goes to talk to Adrian nicely, but Adrian kills one of the demons, so they all run away. Now Nicky has to deal with his brother alone. Following a fierce battle, Adrian managed to push Nicky into the flask, but Nicky managed to pull him in too. They decide to fight inside a flask. It's a tough fight between the brothers, with Nicky's friends cheering outside. Nicky finally gets out of the flask alone, showing he won. But when Valerie kisses him to celebrate, she realizes something's not right. Nicky reveals he's actually Adrian and he turns into a bat. With Valerie's help, Nick escapes from the flask. He decides to follow his mom's advice and destroy Adrian. When he breaks the orb, Ozzy Osbourne shows up, bites Adrian's head off, and sends him back to the flask. Mission accomplished. Valerie has to kill Nicky so he can go back to hell and take the flask to his dad before midnight. Nicky saves his dad just in time. Afterward, his father permits Nicky to remain on Earth with Valerie as he deserves it. The movie concludes a year later, showing Nicky and Valerie residing in New York with their new baby, Zachariah. John and Peter pass away in a plane crash, but find happiness in Nicky's old bedroom in hell. And the movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and I highly recommend watching the entire movie as it is incredibly enjoyable. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel, so you can stay updated and receive notifications whenever we upload new videos.